Hi, I'm Steve Clemons, and I have a question. Are Iran-U.S. relations about to take a new turn? Let's get to the bottom line. U.S. President Donald Trump did what many presidents were afraid to do. He directly bombed Iran, bringing Iran and the United States into direct conflict. And then he quickly ended it, not only stopping U.S. bombing, but then he demanded that Israeli warplanes turn around and go right back home. He's also said there might be an opportunity to take U.S.-Iran relations in a new direction. So are these overtures real, or are they a new set of illusions? Welcome to this special edition of the show, coming to you from the Doha Forum in Qatar, where we're talking to Javad Zarif, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Foreign Minister Zarif, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be with you.
Let me just say that we all saw a 12-day hot war between the United States and Iran, and that it ended in a way that many people didn't expect it to end. Where are we now?
Well, there's a lot of resentment in Iran, there's a lot of disappointment, and diplomacy lost. Because we were right in the middle of negotiations when Israel attacked. Probably because we were in negotiations, they attacked. And everybody lost any faith in diplomacy. I haven't. I believe diplomacy is still the way out of conflict. But it seems to me that the 12-day war, first of all, did not achieve what it was intended to do. Israel believed that it could have an easy job of destroying Iranian government, of even bringing Iran to a collapse, even dismembering Iran. I mean, these are the levels of objective that Israelis had. A nuclear power started the war against Iran, supported by another nuclear power, and we are still standing. Something that must be considered by Americans is that which country, middle power country, that the United States want to attack, before it attacks that country, it evacuates all bases from the surrounding. It shows that Iran is still a major power in this region, a power that needs to be dealt with through respect, not through intimidation, not through pressure. And when you deal with Iran through respect, it pays. When you try to put pressure on Iran, Iran would automatically resist. And we're much better at resisting than in cooperating because we've been used to resisting for generations, for millennia. JCPOA was a short period when Iran, instead of resisting, cooperated, and the United States, instead of imposing, cooperated. And both found going back to the old habits was easier than staying with a new habit.
You negotiated the JCPOA, and you were an enthusiast for what it was achieving in the deal. And I remember speaking to you that you felt that the United States had violated the deal by trying to block foreign investment into Iran, that was one of the first pillars to come undone.
Even during Obama.
Right, but during Obama. But when you negotiated this deal, what did your gut tell you? Did your gut tell you it would hold?
No.
Or did you believe that this was an illusion?
No, our gut told us that the United States may violate the deal. But we thought that there would be more rationality in the U.S. because today, in 10 years, as well as when we negotiated the JCPOA, there is no other arrangement that can control Iranian nuclear technology. Iran has the technology. The Americans tried bombing it away. The Israelis tried terrorizing our scientists, killing them. It still is. It's still there.
It's still there. In what condition?
Whatever condition, because the condition is in the minds of Iranian scientists. We have the technology. We own the technology. We can recover. So the best way to make sure that this technology is used in a peaceful way is to have it in a transparent, open way. So I thought the United States was not in the business of respecting its commitments, but I thought this was a good deal for the United States. And I thought the United States had an interest in maintaining this deal, as we had an interest in maintaining this deal. Unfortunately, the United States went back to the illusion. You remember when Bolton was the National Security Advisor, was Undersecretary of State, he believed that Iran should have zero enrichment.
Right.
He repeated that when he was National Security Advisor. Now, he failed when he said that.
Well, John Bolton was also a big advocate of regime change.
Oh, yeah, he still is.
Yes.
He still is. But, I mean, these are illusions. You cannot cover foreign policy.
So let me
with
ask you
illusions.
something that, and again, this is my take, is that it was a remarkable thing from a U.S. perspective to see President Trump engage in direct military action against Iran, because every other president was afraid that that might recklessly escalate and become impossible to control in the region. Trump did take action. There was controversy over what he achieved inside the United States, where many were saying he did not achieve the objectives of setting back Iran's nuclear program, that it's still there, etc. Donald Trump said, mission accomplished. We wiped out and obliterated Iran's nuclear program. And he put a punctuation point on that to say, end of discussion. End of discussion to Israel as well on that subject. And so not only did he bomb Iran, but he stopped the bombing of Iran in a way that was saying. So I'm going to ask you in honest way, one, what is the state of Iran's nuclear program? And two, were you as surprised as I was that a U.S. president stopped the campaign as nearly as quickly as he began it?
Well, actually, he knew that by continuing this campaign, he would widen the war. Before bombing Iran, he evacuated all the bases around Iran and sent a message that you can hit me back. For the United States, it is not humiliating for Iran to be bombed by a nuclear power, the world's greatest military power, and then be told that you can bomb me back. So the United States should start reflecting. Did it achieve its objectives? Did it obliterate Iran's nuclear program? Or had it not been for the religious decree of the leader, it would have basically encouraged Iran to go underground with a real nuclear program, that is a nuclear weapon program. We did not go underground because it wasn't our objective from the beginning. But had we wanted to build a nuclear weapon, Trump's attacks on our nuclear facilities would have provided us with best excuse.
So do you have that excuse now to go towards an Iranian nuclear weapons program?
We never wanted a nuclear weapons program.
But how about now?
We still don't want a nuclear weapons program because the basis, both ideological as well as doctrinal, defense doctrine, base for not having nuclear weapons hasn't changed. But if we were looking for an excuse, Trump would have certainly given us one. So I think the irony of this entire business is that Trump is trying to achieve what he already has. That Iran is not trying to build nuclear weapons. Had we been trying to build nuclear weapons, he gave us the best reason to do so.
Let me ask you about something else. The late General Soleimani and the IRGC used to talk about creating a ring of fire and maintaining a ring of fire around Israel. So Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthis and et cetera, basically creating this ring as a deterrent in a way to Israel ever directly attacking Iran. Now we've seen Hezbollah to some degrees neutered. We've seen assassinations and the decimation of so much of the Hamas force. We've seen the Syrian regime change. In fact, it was 1 year ago at the Doha Forum when that event happened. You were here at that time.
Let me ask you a question.
But I just want to ask you real quick. Did that prove General Soleimani right, that as soon as that ring was gone, Israel then did attack?
Well, we never, I mean, General Soleimani was the implementer of Iranian policy of supporting resistance. We did not create the resistance in order to protect ourselves. You see, resistance was there before the Islamic Revolution. The cause of resistance is not to protect Iran. The cause of resistance is to prevent Israel from further aggressions upon the Palestinian people. So, if Hamas is weaker today, I don't know. If it's weaker today, then it's the cause of Palestine, not Iran, because Hamas did not shoot a single bullet in order to protect Iran. Hamas was trying to prevent Israel. You remember Netanyahu going to the General Assembly showing a map of the region without Palestine? Just 2 weeks before the 7th of October. Israel wanted to actually obliterate Palestine, to destroy Palestine. It failed. Now people are talking about two-state solution much more than they were talking before 7th of October, because Israel had managed to basically put that on the shelf. So let's talk about the real cause. Let's not talk about the manufactured crisis. The manufactured crisis was that Iran was supporting this or that group because it was a ring of fire around Israel. The ring of fire is inside Israel. It is the occupation, the aggression, the apartheid, the genocide. This is the ring of fire that is creating resistance. If somebody expects Israel to impose apartheid on the Palestinians, to commit genocide in Gaza, and be immune from the consequences, then they're living in a different world, in a different universe.
So let me ask you a very important question, which is how significant is Palestine in Iran's strategic map today? You've been on record saying it's exhausting working to be more Palestinians than the Palestinians themselves. And as you look at the Arab neighborhood, to be honest, many of them have been on the sidelines in many ways. President Trump has now done, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, this ceasefire deal with Gaza and Israel and where you think it will go. And many states have committed to a stabilization force to move beyond this. But it just wonders whether or not Gaza is ever going to move, in Palestine, because the West Bank, et cetera, is ever going to move forward, or is this going to become a forgotten and neglected issue again?
You see, are we going back to the 19th century mandate system or early 20th century mandate system? Are Palestinians incapable of running their own government? That you need to bring them to the readiness of self-governance? Come on, this is a major insult to the Palestinian people. I certainly hope that this would stop the bloodshed. But let's be realistic. Palestinians are one of the most advanced Arab people. Their degrees, their level of education, the rate of illiteracy is unparalleled. These people can govern themselves. They don't need Tony Blair to be their master. Let's not insult people.
Let me ask you about your role in the Iran-U.S. relationship. I think we met, or I became aware of your very important role in around 2003. This was after the Iraq invasion, and you authored a white paper that the Bush administration completely ignored and said that hadn't been written by Iran, had not come from Iran. But in this white paper, you put many of the contentious issues between Iran and the U.S. on the table and said, let's negotiate. And I think it was a very, very important moment in history.
Well, I didn't author that paper. I edited it.
Okay.
I thought it came from Armitage.
Yeah.
Because the intermediary who gave that paper to us said that he received it from Richard Armitage, who was at that time Deputy Secretary of State. So I was given that paper and I asked to put Iranian comments on the paper. So what I had in mind
Well, we
was
should
that I
write. We should
edited.
write the history of it because I find it an interesting moment. But at that moment, after the U.S. invasion of Iraq, there was a pliability in that moment, which the Bush administration decided not to accept. It seems that Iran-U.S. relations, when Iran is ready to dance, America is not. When America is ready to dance, Iran is not
Yeah,
ready to
unfortunately,
dance.
this has been the case since I started working on the Iran-U.S. file long before that, and each time from 1990, when we had the release of
Right.
U.S. hostages in Lebanon,
Yeah.
all the
Well, I
way.
also remember the naval. I talked to then Secretary of State John Kerry,
Yeah.
who talked about how good his working relationship with you was.
Yeah,
so
we've
you've
done-
gone through these episodes.
Yeah, and each time there was an opportunity, somebody managed to kill it. And more often than not, and I can go through history page by page.
I
it
know
was-
you can.
It was Israel.
Well, I want to ask you about this moment because this moment to me feels different again. Maybe it's an illusion, where I hear the Saudis saying, perhaps times have changed with Iran, we should step forward. I've heard Anwar Gargash of the UAE say very publicly it's time to give an olive branch to Iran, to do these. We've heard President Trump tweet, that he would like to see a different future, in direction with Iran. Are we at a moment where there's possibilities of coming back to some arrangement between Iran and the United States, which is far better than it is now from your
It takes
perspective?
a lot of
or
work.
is it easily sabotageable?
It takes a lot of work, a lot of courage, and a lot of foresight. Because I tell you in one sentence, the most existential threat to Israel, particularly to Netanyahu, is peace and tranquility in this region. So every opportunity for peace, whether it's in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iran, it's killed by Netanyahu. If everybody is on the lookout for his moves against possibilities, then we certainly can find possibilities.
How do you feel about other big stakeholders in the region and the world? You've said that Russia is out undermining Iran's interests pretty frequently, that they have no interest in Iran normalizing with the rest of the world. They don't want Iran in direct conflict with the rest of the world. Neither do they want Iran to normalize with the United States.
Well,
do
they
they
don't-
have the ability to
Well,
control Iran's weather?
No, Iran is a major country. But I don't blame Russia. They follow their own national interests. And they're a big neighbor and a good friend of Iran. But our interests are not identical. Russia has extremely good relations with Israel. And we have good relations with Russia. So the problem is when we identify the interest of Iran and Russia as identical. They're not. So we should expect Russia to pursue its own national interests. At the same time, it can be our friend. It is a big neighbor. So Iran can decide for itself. And Iran will decide for itself. Of course, there'll be noises. There'll be interferences. But the single most important interference in the relations between Iran and the rest of the world is not Russia. It's Israel. Because Israel has a vested interest in conflict. A vested interest in turmoil in the region. That's how it sort of covers its atrocities against the Palestinian. It's, the new regime in Syria is not an Iranian ally. Why did Israel attack it? Why did Israel bombard it? If anything, it's an enemy of Iran. But why did Israel bombard that country? We have to wake up to the reality. Countries in the region particularly, because I do not believe Americans will wake up, the American government. I'm happy that the American people are waking up. People are talking about Israeli firsters. We've been talking about Israeli firsters since the 1970s, when the book Zionist Connection was written by Alfred Lilienthal. But, everybody who talked about Israeli firsters was called anti-Semitic. Doesn't mean anti-Semitism. We host a lot of Jews in Iran because Iran is their nation. We saved Jews in the Second World War. We saved Jews in Babylon. So we have nothing against Jews. We have a Jewish member of parliament. But Israel wants to prevent us from talking about its atrocities by reminding us of some Europeans who were anti-Semitic. We didn't have anti-Semites in our region. It was Europeans.
Right. So Israel is the superpower with nuclear weapons in the region. President Trump has talked about selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia, turning the UAE and Qatar into anchors of AI power in the world, which will also affect this. As you look at these changes in the Middle East map, do you think it's healthy for the region for strong military capacity that may not be American planes sold to Iran, but American planes sold to Saudi Arabia? Do you think that helps balance some of the behaviors you're worried about from Israel?
Well, let's see if the planes can hit Israel, because the planes are programmed not to hit Israel. And the main threat to our region is Israel. But let me tell you one thing. The way out of the problem is not more weapons. The way out of the problem is more dialogue. And we are certainly ready to engage in dialogue with Saudi Arabia, with the UAE, with Qatar. I mean, we have good relations with Qatar, thanks God. But we are ready to engage in more dialogue with the GCC, with other countries. I have several proposals on the table that I presented when I was in office. And now that I'm in academia, I have put several proposals on the table. So let's look at the future and work on these proposals.
Let me just ask you finally about Donald Trump's diplomatic team. And you know many of these people after being, living in New York for many years and being engaged as you have been for so many years. What do you think about this new style and new direction? Steve Witkoff negotiating in ways that are very surprising. Sort of the foreign policy establishment is sitting on the sidelines saying, wow, we would never do that. But he seems to oddly, I wouldn't necessarily call it getting results, but at least changing the game. Are you a fan of that approach?
Certainly not, because negotiations that end up in war will not make me a fan.
Well, Javad Zarif, former foreign minister of Iran, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
So what's the bottom line? Iran and the United States have in their history never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity ever since the Iranian people kicked out the pro-American Shah. When one is ready to move in a better direction, the other just drags its heels. Now there's just zero trust. Sometimes Trump hints that he wants to be the Nixon went to China president on Iran. But there are really significant forces inside Tehran and inside Washington, and especially inside Israel, who thrive off sabotaging those efforts. So no one should be naive. And that's the bottom line.